let's move on to the writing career.
Okay. I've been writing since I was 14.
Okay.
Poems. My poems are like babies. I can't remember them, but I've always written poems. And everybody knows that about me, that I love poems. And so I've written about maybe 500 poems. Some of them I don't remember. I've written some for women that I dated, and I don't remember. I only made one copy of that. But the first poem that actually, the first time I published a book was here, 2011. I carried a story for 10 years. My wife said, publish this book. I carried it for 10 years about a cat that I had that I adopted from a shelter. The book's called Hope, the big headed cat. The reason I said that Hope had a big head, when they sheared her, when you shear a cat, you cannot shear a cat the way you shear a dog because the cat's hair is connected to the dog's, the cat's skin is connected. So this is a story about Hope, who was in my house for about 4 months, and she died in my house. But she was a shelter cat, excuse me, shelter cat that I rescued. That was the first book I published, 2011, of that nature. But I've been writing poems since I was 14. Some of the other books came out of experiences. My wife says all the time, "Holy moly!" So I published a book called Holy Moly. It's a book about different types of holes, post holes, you know, was it black holes, white holes? It's a definition of the experience plus a picture. I have people now calling me talking about we want to take this book and make it famous. I'm like, no, that's gonna cost $6,000. I don't want that. So that book came from her saying, "Holy moly!" The men's book, I told you what influenced the men's book. Other books are spiritual books. I just wrote poems that I felt what I was going through at a particular time. I wrote my own obituary. It's called "What Would You Have Them Say Over You, Brother Man?" it's it's actually my obituary. I wrote that about 15 years ago. So a lot of they come from my experiences and how I feel, how I feel. And what I've done with the poem, sometimes I write the title for the poem and come back a month later and write the poem. Okay. So what I do now, you want to ask me how I write. What I do is two things. If I get a writer's block, I call it the once upon a time. I write once upon a time, and then I see what comes out after that. And then if I can't see anything else, I leave it there. Or I put the blank of the blank. And what I mean is I put in some words there just to hold the space, Stan. It holds the space, but it's not really what I want to say. And when I come back, I'll find something better rather than the blank of the blank or a once upon a time. Also, I try to write outlines. This is what I want to say. If I was talking this, I'm writing it. But if I was talking this, how would I talk this? And it's logical. And so then I'll make an outline that goes flows like that. I'll put it on cards so I can shuffle it, or I put it in an outline on a computer where I can shuffle it. A lot of my stuff is shuffled. It's A is C and B is F. I shuffled it because it didn't make sense. And then what happens is I get to feel like it's done. You don't need to say anything more. That's enough. And I seal it from there. I've done about 10 books, and none of them has hit the New York Times bestseller list yet. But I've got a couple things I'm working on now, I believe will. Yeah. So it's a matter of just, and also I sit down in front of my computer, and every day I usually give myself an hour to write something. Some days nothing comes out. Some days a lot comes out. But I sit there with my mind totally committed to writing something. Okay. One of my friends just told me, she was an associate. She said, "You're writing a book. I'm writing a book called B flat, B-E, B flat. B flat means say what you mean and mean what you say." Okay. I haven't finished writing that book. And I've been writing for 7 years. I just figured out yesterday why I haven't written that book. You know why? There's some things in the book I didn't believe, but I believe them now. I couldn't write what I didn't believe. I've always been a nice guy, and there's some things I couldn't say to people, but now I can say them because they're in the book. But I couldn't write it because I didn't feel it. So
Okay.
I've mastered those thoughts.
Okay. So I need to dissect some of this. First of all, as
Okay.
far as my wife is a retired teacher,
Okay.
and I see it in you, and I saw it in her.
Yeah.
Both of you have a passion for teaching,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's really wonderful thing to have.
It's a gift. Yeah. And it's missing. Missing with a lot of the teachers that are there. I'm glad I'm not in administration because I would fire a lot of people because the kids miss that. They're missing that. I
Yeah.
got it. They're missing it. And it changed my life. And you can see what they're suffering from. And they're not getting it at home. So that doesn't help.
So,
Okay.
when you write, So the first book that you wrote, did you say, I want to write, what should I write about? Or did you say, I have this story and I need to write it down?
That's what it was. I had a story, and I want to document this experience. Actually, I had an experience, and I want to document this experience. And the best way to document the experience is to write down what I experienced and see how long it is. It might have been a story, but it actually ended up being a book because as I talked about one thing, something else came up. And I talked about the things I thought were things that other people wouldn't think about normally, and those things that were glaring, like, oh, you'd see that. You see that my cat's sick. She's totally deaf. You'd see that because you start vacuuming the floor and you see she's not moving. So that's something you would notice. But the other things about her, like her heart condition, you would notice that. So I wrote down those things about her that I felt were worth documenting. And when I finished, it was a book. And what's interesting, Howard, is that and what's interesting about that is that I have read this book to several public groups. And every time I get to a certain point, I start weeping. The point where she died, I can't get through that. And it's amazing because I try to prepare myself. Here it comes. They don't know. Here it comes. But every time, because it brings up the same emotion. 2011, I remember she died 10 years before that. So it's 2010 and forward from there to even now. Whenever I touch the book and I get to a certain section, I start weeping because I still miss her. But yeah, I wanted to document what I experienced of this marvelous cat that didn't complain about all of her physical problems. She never complained. And I wanted to document that because I knew that would go unstated. No one would ever know that but me. And if it just one person picked up the book and read it, wow, that was a pretty good cat. That was a marvelous cat. So that's what it's done. It's had some sales, but I didn't write it to be a bestseller. I wrote it because I felt that something needed to be documented. And that was my testament to her that I documented it. So at least one other person would know what a marvelous cat she was. Yeah. That's normally when something strikes me a certain way. And I start thinking about, I need to write this down. I don't want to get this out of my head and forget. And I get older, it slips in and slips out. So I have to take a pad with me sometime to write it down because if not, I'll forget it in about 2 hours.
Okay, so I wasn't going to go there, but let's do that now. Do you write longhand in spiral notebooks or something? Do you have
Well,
like 7 or 8 spiral notebooks of the 7 or 8 different stories or books that you might be working on, or do you do one book, then do another book?
no, I'm working on 4 right now.
Okay.
And I write, like I said, I'll get to a certain point, like, I don't believe that. What I want to write right now, I don't believe that. So I need to put that down. Or that's something I don't feel very passionate about right now. So I put it down. I tell you, the book I have on B flat, there were some things in there that I'm doing now that I wasn't doing before. And that's why I couldn't write about them. I have to know something to write about it. So these are things I felt people should do in terms of being polite and being respectful, but I wasn't being polite, or people weren't being polite to me. I allowed that. And people weren't being respectful to me, and I allowed that. And so I couldn't write about being respectful till I decided to make people respect me. When they started respecting me, then I could write about it. So I write several things at a time. I have purple pads. I don't have one. Yes, I do. I have purple pads. I love purple pads. They're purple, not yellow, purple. And I've got all kind of stuff that I'll flip back and forth. I flip back and forth across the pads in terms of my thoughts. But most primarily an outline. It's in my head sometime, but now I write it down because sometimes I get the outlines confused. And once I think I have enough topics in the outline, I may take some out. Well, I'll put them on 3x5 cards and I'll shuffle them. Chapter 2 should be chapter 7. It shouldn't be 2. It's misplaced. And then when I've done that several times, I'll say, okay, now I've got an outline. I'll type it. I'll put it in the computer. I type real fast. So I'll type something in the computer. But a lot of things, like I said, they get incomplete because my thoughts are not complete on it. I can feel it's a sense I have. That's enough. I don't need to say any more about that. Or that's 2 books. That's not 1. That's 2. Do I want to write a book? For instance, the men's book. It's called Aha Men. It's about aha moments. But there's aha women out there. I got women that could be the aha women. I don't have the energy right now or the time or the interest in writing an aha women book because I haven't promoted the aha men book the way I want to. Okay. So again, it's papers. Sometimes I write the title of the poem or the title of the book, and come back about a month later in my purple pads. I got pads everywhere, but I know where they are and I know what they are. So if I decide to get them, it's in the fourth tub in the bottom. That's where I left it. I go back and get that and bring it back out because I have some thoughts like that's incomplete. It's like you eat part of something and like, wait a minute, I didn't get the whole thing. So you go back and get the whole flavor. So it's an instinct more than anything else, an instinct of something that touched me, something that impressed me, something that interested me, something that tweaked my curiosity. Then I want to go back and look at it in more detail. And I write it down to document it. It's like a document, something I saw, and I want to write down the documentation before I forget it. Okay, before I get what happened. Back in high school, a quick story. Back in high school, our principal said, do not run down the steps in the cafeteria because you go through those doors, somebody's gonna get hurt. And this was like 65. Yeah, and I got a friend of mine. I have two friends I've had for 60 years. And one of my friends who was in high school, I went from college to high school. The guy from high school, I validated with him that one day the principal locked the doors. And the kids, 20 kids came out, hit the door, and the door won. And they had to take several of them to the hospital, knocked them unconscious. And I had to document that with him. Did that really happen? Was that my imagination? You know, people over time tend to stretch stories. So it didn't really happen that way because it stretched over time. So he validated that's exactly what happened. So those kind of things I document writing because I might forget them or stretch them. And when I stretch them, it's not exactly, things happen sometimes. You just write it down. And that's funny enough, or weird enough. This situation now with this bacterium that gives you exploding diarrhea, you know about that?
No.
Maybe that's Canada. There's in lettuce. You ever heard about that? In the lettuce,
Yes, yes.
there's a bacteria. And you eat it, and it gives you exploding diarrhea. Who wants that? who would want that? So they pull in lettuce, but they think it might be something else. There's a lot of things that are funny right now in the world. They're really funny in the world that are worth documenting that I could write about, but I don't think I have enough for a book. So usually it's a lot. It has to reach. I've got an inside barometer, I guess you want to call it. That said that's enough to write a book about. Sometimes it's just a story. That's enough for a story, but that's not enough for a book. And so I write what I think is a story, and I set it aside, and I say, no, that's really a book. I come back see if I can extend the outline. And it hits me different ways. Again, everything. Forgive me for saying this. Everything I think I've written, I think is New York Times quality. It's just not at that level. It hasn't been exposed because people come read my books and like, wow, that's pretty good. Yeah, but I didn't write it for the money. I wrote it because I needed to say something, and that to me is satisfying to see it as a completed document with a cover that at that particular point in my writing career, it expressed what I wanted it to express. What I wanted to say about my cat is in the book. I have nothing more to say about my cat. It's all in the book. So that's an answer to your question. Yeah, it's a feeling, but I have to have something that's tangible. I can't just let it run around my head without writing something down. But a lot of times I use my computer. I'll type it. I can type fast and I can talk.
So sometimes you type straight onto the computer, and
Yeah, I'll
other
type.
times you
Yeah,
write onto the purple pads in
if
longhand
which
first.
if I can go faster. Yeah, if it's a
Okay.
thought if it's a detailed thought and it's long, I'd rather type it than try to write it because eventually I'm going to have to type it. But if it's something that's fleeting, it's like I'm driving and I get a thought, I pull over, I'll write it down on a pad, and that's it for now. And I may or may not come back to it. But if I put it in the computer, that means something I think I can expand. So it starts off usually on a pad. And then when I change it to the computer, that's my signal like, okay, this is more than just a story. It's more than that. And again, I got several things I'm working on now at the same time. I'm juggling them as I find an interest in doing it. I may work up in the middle of the night. My wife knows me. I get up in the middle of the night and I'll go work on it, or I'll let it sit sometime for a year. This B flat book's been 7 years, but it's okay because I now can write it. I couldn't write it before, and I figure out why because there are things in it that are not. I'm not practicing. I'm not practicing what I'm telling the people they should consider practicing. I think that's hypocritical. So I've written a couple of books like that you'll never see because they're hypocritical. They're not where I am. They're not where I am, and they're not who I am right now. But they're aspirations. I will be there, but I'm not there, and I don't want it to get out like that. When people say, "Well, you're not like that. Why'd you write that?"
Is your stuff of fiction or nonfiction?
Both.
Okay.
It's both. It's both. Yeah, it's both. I have a story that I've written. It's a murder story And
Okay.
it's about a man who is an old man. He retired, and they thought he died, but he didn't, because when they got his birth certificate, it wasn't the same guy. and
Okay.
and the thing about it is that he's still alive, but he's in in the house. He's somewhere in the house. So people come there to try to find him. They die when they come to the house. And then, but it's a dog that sees everything. And he left all the money to the dog. And when they found out, they got mad. They're trying to kill the dog. And so the story is, can you outlive the dog? And at the end of the story, watch this. End of the story, the house is burning down. Okay, because the house is involved as well. The house is haunted, so the house is getting involved in killing people, and so it's a mystery about who's going to kill who. But at the end of the story, the dog runs out of the house as it's burning. Somebody decided to burn the house down. The dog runs out of the house, and a hand reaches out. You think the dog's going to get away? Like, wow, the dog's going to get away. Hand reaches out of the house, grabs the dog, and pulls it back in the house. It's a murder story.
Okay.
I got that like one morning. So
Okay.
it came to me and I just wrote it down. I don't know what to do with it, but it's a complete story, characters and everything. I dream some things like that, So yeah, and it comes and goes. Stuff comes and goes. I had dry periods where nothing was coming through because there was too much going on in my life. Yeah, so it comes. That's what the beauty of it is. It comes and goes. Everything I've written, I love. I cherish it. But I'm not trying to get famous off it. I could certainly use the money, but I know that what I'm working on now. One thing I'm working on now is I'm working on a game. This game came to me, an idea of a game. It's a seniors game, and if they play it, they'll get better about aging. And I'm using myself as the example. I think this is going to hit. I'm going to pitch it to Hasbro and see if they want it because it's a really good idea. And I have people bounced off of it. It'll make me some money. I need some money to do some things for my retirement, which I want to be passive income. I wanted stuff to come in the house that I didn't know, checked. I didn't even know what it was, or where it came from. Passive income. So that's some passive income because I can't do this forever. And the days where my brain is not as sharp as it is. Some mornings my brain is sharp. Other days, like, what day is this? And what year is this? Where am I? You're my wife, right? Yeah. What's your name again?
Okay. Well, it's like you have a new wife and you get to start all over
She
again.
knows that. She knows me. Yeah. I hope I answered your question. So yeah, sometimes it's written, sometimes it's a note, sometimes it's something in the car, but I make sure I follow up on everything at least that it gets more than just a couple of lines. But some things that say it's not even a story. It's just some thoughts that I have, but they're not enough to go any further. And I don't want to stretch myself. When something comes out naturally and it flows like I did with the murder mystery, it flowed. I even saw characters. And what I do, Stan, I'll get a salt shaker and make that one character. I'll get a mustard jar and make that another character. And I'll sit them next to each other and I'll imagine them talking to each other. And one time I took out three of them. I said, oh, this is a love triangle. This is going to be a love triangle between the three of them. So I have as you said, great imagination. I think all writers have great imagination. And I've received a couple of awards for my writing ability, just nothing, as I said, that's going to take to get to the bank. But that wasn't the objective. I just love to read what I write. And I try to, because I don't speak French, I just speak English. It's pretty communicative. I had a great English teacher. She was awesome. She was really awesome. I taught me English. She was awesome. I mean, the things I can't remember what they are. My wife's good at that. Similes and homilies and all that stuff. She taught me all of that stuff at a very basic level because the first class I had, 1954, was the first class integrated to schools in the States. So I had excellent teachers. They ran after a while, but I had excellent teachers, first, second, third grade. They were excellent. And they taught me so much about the language. I don't curse because I see that as a way of disturbing the language. Yeah. So that's why I love to write. And again, I encourage anyone, don't let people criticize it. Just write it. And if it's good for you, that's enough. Take it to the audience you want to understand. Somebody's going to find something wrong with it. And I have favorite writers that I read from time to time. They're male and female. There's no race on it. It's just a good writer. And again, a good writer is like a good meal to me. The bluer eye is things like that are awesome. To Kill a Mockingbird. I've got a whole section of my library that's just classics. And when I start reading those, I just disappear into those classics. The Last Mohican. Oh my. Wuthering Heights. Oh my, stuff like that is good. It's better than food.
Okay, so your aha moments,
Yeah.
were you looking for a subject of a book, or did you say, I need to write this down before these stories are lost? And
Both.
I'm
There you
not in
go.
any hurry, so don't worry
Right.
about the time.
Right. There. It's all of that. I don't. The aha moment. I don't have a brother. I believe that if I had a brother, he would have given me some aha moments. Okay. He would have said, "Look at that. That doesn't make sense. Don't do that." So the aha moment I had was okay because I didn't have brothers, and I'm seeing now some of the things, mistakes I made over time. I may not would not have made those mistakes if I had a brother. That was because the aha moments would have come to me through talking to them. I need to write something that's a set of aha moments. And I thought about it. I don't know anybody really famous, so I can't go and talk to people famous, but I know some people who should be famous based on number one, their impact on my life, and number two, just what they brought as a package, how intelligent they were, how wise they were, how witty they were, how comfortable I was just talking about anything with them. And in fact, I could sit at their feet. I can talk. They could outtalk me. And I said, anybody outtalk me, that's quite an achievement. And so I said, now who do I know that I can ask and not get a lot of pushback on it? Immediately, I made a list of about 40 guys, and most of them were TEPs. Again, I hadn't seen in 40 years. And I said to myself, can I go ask these guys to do this without seeing them 40 years? Before I get it out, the answer was, of course. And they even asked me, who are you? Quentin. Oh, House. How are you? I said, I'm great. How you been, man? Fine. What do you want? What's up? And I told him immediately. So I said, but I want unsung men. This will give them a forum and a platform they have not had and they deserve. And I know that we're all getting older, but I want to have a platform for them to express who they are so people who may never meet them physically will know that they are great guys. And it just so happened that most of them were TEPs. This happened that they're most TEPs. Every story was sent to me. They sent it to me. I didn't edit it very much. They sent it to me and I put it together until I had a compilation of 26 guys. And then I went and found a publisher. I asked them for $100 each. They gave me money and I gave the rest of it. We got it published. And right as it got published, 2015, the publisher disappeared. I still don't know where it is. And so I got frustrated and I let it drop for a period of time. But then I thought about, no, your objective was to get the stories out, these unsung men, and two guys died. I said, wow, I've got to really go back to this. So I asked them again. They gave money and I got the new editions of 2024. But yeah, unsung men whose stories are fantastic, but would never get out had I not put them out there. And my story, that I think is fantastic about how I got where I am. Because if you look at my life, a lot of things don't add up. They don't add up. How'd you get from here to here? It doesn't add up. It's a blessing, but it doesn't add up. But I think what I've done in my life is a blessing and it's phenomenal because I refuse to give up. And I feel there's a higher source, I call him God, higher force in me that keeps me enthusiastic and keeps me, I find other people my age, Stan, they're boring. If they put me in a nursing home, they're gonna have to drug me.
Okay.
Something I needed to say, but I didn't say it. I couldn't say it by myself. I felt it was better saying with a group of people saying the same thing. I
Okay.
felt I am unsung. I'm not famous, which I'm glad about. I'm unsung, but I feel I have something significant to say. I had it validated different areas of my life, but I felt I had something to say, and I didn't want to say it by myself. So I wanted to pick some other men I felt who had the same perspective I had, because had I not, I wouldn't just publish this by myself. Because I'm not sure that what I have to say is that meaningful. However, I knew that if I had other guys who were saying what I was saying in different ways, it'd be meaningful, and it'd be something who someone who didn't have brothers like I did could pick it up, and they wouldn't trip over the things I tripped over. So with that in mind, when I presented to the guys, they jumped on it. And all their stories are revealing. There's something in each story is an aha moment or more, one or more, about things that I was with these guys for 4 years I never heard before from them. They used that as an opportunity to reveal some things that were cleansing and therapeutic to them. Okay. But it were also things that would help people if they read them. Wow. I experienced that too. And this guy came out of that to something that's great, but it wasn't something that was on the news. But all these guys could be in the news, all of them. If I wanted to, I could be in the news. I don't want that. I don't want that forum. I don't want to be famous. It's too much. The cost is too high. It's not worth it. But I felt that what they had to say was more important than what I had to say. But I used them to go along with me. I didn't want to take the ride by myself. So that was the whole idea. Something to say. I didn't want to say it by myself. I felt the other guys I had met in my life had something as meaningful and more so than I had to say. And they were aha moments of their lives. I made them say, tell me the aha moments in your life that changed your life. And that's what the story's told. Okay. And again, I went back to get it. I lost the publisher and I was disappointed. I went back and got it again. And 10 years later, I republished it. So now I have other forums around getting it out, website, other things to get it out. It's a movement.
So all of your books are self-published, right?
No. I would say no. All of my books are published. They're publishers. Yeah. They're publishers. Yeah. I just started looking at self-publishing, but all my books are published by someone else. Wadsworth, other publishers. Some of the small publishers, the book that disappeared was a publisher, but I think it was a scam. There are a lot of publishers scams. So I got caught in one or two scams.
Did you have to pay to get these books published?
Some of the books I had to pay to get published, correct. Yeah.
So did you take any of them to Rand McNally or Doubleday or?
They were supposed to be out there. They were supposed to be out there and supposed to be advertised in all those forums. I got no response from that. I even took a couple of my books to local bookstores and put like 6 of them in the bookstore. And so they sold those 6, but the bookstore didn't want to go further about buying other copies. And I don't have an agent. The best way to publish a book is to have an agent. That's another level I'm going to take. You have an agent, the agent takes it, but most agents either take 15% or they want money up front. I'm not in a position to put down $10,000, $15,000 for a book that may or may not go to the next level.
I'm sorry, yeah. I didn't know that agents charge authors.
They're supposed to charge afterwards. They're supposed to, but some that will charge you in front. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. All agents aren't the same. Yeah. That's why I say, my challenge about writing has been the scams I've experienced. I don't want to number the scams I've experienced, around that and not the money that I've lost in that awareness.
Did you send your manuscript to a number of publishers?
Yes, I did.
Like Doubleday, like Rand McNally.
And I sent them to people. I sent it to President Obama. I sent it to Whoopi Goldberg. I sent it to like 10 people, 10 famous people. And I sent them to 10 publishers. And got no response from the publishers. Some publishers say, if you don't hear from us, we don't want your manuscript. And so in some instances, they said, well, yeah, we want to publish it, but it's going to cost you X number of dollars for that. That's just to publish the book, but not for things like, getting it out. So the book that the current AHA book is on Rand McNally. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. But to get it to the next level, I have to pay another $5,000 to $7,000 for marketing. Okay. When I thought the $5,000 I paid would have covered that. So I see that, I say, convince me you're not a scam. Okay. But the majority of my books are published by a publisher. But again, it's other levels in that you got to pay more beyond that initial cost. But now I'm looking at doing ebooks and self-publishing. I bought 10 ISBN numbers with the numbers that go in the book to make it a book. I have those. So I'm considering the next round of books to be books that I self-publish, ISBN, and I'm getting more involved with the Chamber of Commerce here. I'm going to use that as my fulcrum to spring me up into where I want to be next. Yeah, because I'm very disappointed in publishers. And as I said, there are quite a few out here that are scams. And I get calls all the time.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, good, I was done.
Tell me about some of the scams, because other people may want to publish their own books and we don't want them to fall into the scam traps that either you fell into or
one of the things, okay, if they continue to call you at all hours of the day and night, and you can hear what sounds like 5 other people in the background doing similar kinds of appeals, it's a scam. Usually, if they say, we can take your book to another level and we're going to put it into a book fair, and it'll be internationally known. And when you talk to them about 5 minutes into that, you ask, okay, here's the recommendation. Ask them early enough, what's it going to cost me? Okay, you identify my book. You have a copy of my book. You've read it. You say it's good. You think that it will sell. What's this going to cost me to get it where it needs to be? Tell me that before you go any further. Oh no, it's well written. No, stop right there. What's it going to cost? What's it going to cost you the $8,000 to do this? And what will I get for $8,000? We'll put it here. We'll put it there. We'll take it to a fair. That's not enough. Okay, that's not enough. It won't get the kind of commerce. We'll put it in the newspaper. I've had the stuff in the local newspaper in terms of talking about the book, but it hasn't gone any further than that. So ask the questions up front. How much is it going to cost me? And when I put in that cost, what will I get for that investment? If you're comfortable with what you get from that for that investment and what you get, what you think you get from that, and you hold them accountable for that. You said you were going to put in 45 different media. Give me a list of those media so I can double check that. And what you find, they're in half of them. If they say to you, we're going to take your book and make a movie out of it, you know that's not a book. That's not a movie-worthy book. It's a book about holes. Come on now. Make a book about post holes and black holes. How you gonna make a book about that? It's just a definition of the whole. It's a book, good book. It's the kind of book you put on your table,
The
night
coffee
table,
table book.
coffee table book. You pick it up. Oh, okay, that's interesting to know. Tiger Woods got his first hole in one when he was 12. That's interesting to know, but it's not something you'd make a movie out of. So listen to the credulity of what they're saying. Does that make sense to you? That they could do that with your book? When they talk about taking your book and put it in with other books, other books, we're going to put this in with other books and they're going to sell. What are some books that you published at that level that I might be able to check? Okay. You say that's a New York Times bestseller. What is that book? And chances are they'll back off from that because they're not operating at that level. They're not guaranteeing you that it'll be a New York Times bestseller. They're guaranteed they'll take it, they'll use your money, but chances are you won't get the bang for that. Those are those, and again, it's a time. They're called at all times. And then misspell your name. Kenton? Might I speak to Kenton, please? I'm like, that's not my name. Is Kenton there? Kenton? Oh, they give you this Newhouse Kenton? That's not my name. Little things. Or your book, what is Holy Holy? No, little slips like that
Okay.
suggest that they're packaging stuff. You know,
Okay.
they're doing mass calls. They're packaging stuff. That's a sign of a scam. There are also places you can go online and say, is this, you can do Chat GPT, or you can do internet and say, is this company a scam? There's a listing. The last listing I had was like 2,500 companies that are scams, book scams. And like I said, I burn out with these book scams because they promise you something. You give them $5,000. They tell you that's going to be enough, and it's not enough. You get no marketing at all.
So when you first had the aha moment published and you got scammed, so you sent them the manuscript, you sent them a check, and they were supposed to edit it
No,
and put a
yeah, it's
cover
worse.
on it.
It's
And
worse than that. It's worse. Yeah, put a cover. That's worse than that. I sent them a manuscript. I sent them a check. Okay, and they started editing the same thing 4 times.
okay,
That was a signal. Or they started switching around. They started using semantics. The and the. I'm using figuratively. The and the. You started putting semantics in. That's a similar word. It's a word, but it means the same thing. My word is better. So the editing was not really editing. They started having misspelled words in the editing. They started moving things around without permission. The little signals that unprofessional. And then the inability to get them. They could call me, but I couldn't call them. So there were little signals along the way, and then you could tell that they were actually dragging their feet. That should have been done 6 months ago. Where are we now? We're not 6 months ahead of where we should be because you're still editing that. And here's another thing, Stan. Second time I gave you a completed manuscript, and it took you a year to publish it. And I said, convince me that you're not a scam like the first one. I don't think they are, but on the same note, it took them. We should take a year to publish an edited manuscript that was already a book. I just took some people out of the book and I updated what the guys were doing at the current time. That shouldn't take a long time to do that. And then shifting you from one person to another. You call and talk to Joe. You call back to got Sally. You call back, you got Jim. That's a sign. And sometimes it's just a gut feeling. It's a gut feel. They're excited about it moving forward. they're excited about it. What's the next level of this, and who's on that next level? I could call and talk to. It's follow up for the most part. I've learned follow it up until you feel that it's not going anywhere. It's a scam, and again, they keep asking for money. That's the way to do it. So I'm moving now towards self publishing. I have everything I need to do to make that happen. I do have been approached by an agent. I may give the agent a chance if he or she doesn't ask me for money. I may do it that way. And then I'm going almost door to door salesman. I have copies of the book I take with me almost everywhere. I always look for a place I can speak about the book. So you need a copy of my book. I'm looking at places I can present the notion of the book, so they may want to buy 10 or 15 copies. And again, and finding the right person. Do you know President Obama? Do you know President Trump? Can you put this in his hand? Do you know him that well? Because a lot of things I sent in, I think it never got to the person I sent it to. Because I know some of the books I've written, if that person had just touched it, Obama had touched my book, Aha Men, it'd be out there. He never got it. I sent it directly to the White House. He didn't get it. I may do it again. He's not in the White House. Or I might go somewhere I think he might be, and I say, "Are you working with the president? Can you put this in his hand? Let me see it." Those kind of things. And again, the advice is it's all about who you know, and your capability to make significant contacts. If you're an agent, what books have you published for other people? Go research that. I Googled you. I Googled you, and I went to YouTube. And when I saw you done on YouTube, that was it. I was convinced. That's all I needed to see. If you had not given me that information or had not called me, I wouldn't be doing this because I've been scammed so many times. I would have felt like it was a scam. But those two things convinced me that you need more evidence. That's what I'm saying. Look for the evidence of the scam. Look for it. Most of them are not that sophisticated. They really aren't. They're not that sophisticated. You can feel it. Kenton, when I speak to Kenton, Quen. Look up how to pronounce that. The computer will do that for you.
Did they
Or
send you a couple hundred copies of the book?
no, I had to pay for those actually. Some publishers, my earlier books, I got 60 copies free. The other one book I got 20 copies free. The men's book, I'm gonna have to pay for it, and I've got to get them to lower the price of the book. It's too expensive. About $30, $39. People are not gonna pay $39 for that. They have to lower the price. But yeah, I have to end up paying for the books. So my goal now is to go from the bottom up. I want a groundswell of people that I am in contact with, whether they are old people, old homes, old nursing homes, or retirement associations, or gyms, or family places, or administrative offices of the government, where I could present something about the Aha Men, and they're like, "Wow, that's a good book. We need copies of it." Okay, then order 60 and go from there. I found that's going to work better, groundswell, and meet someone who really can promote the book. Don't think your book, even though it may be a great book, that it's going to get out there and it's going to do what you want it to do without some work and without some pitfalls and setbacks that you got to learn from, and then move it forward. If it's good enough, it can be re-edited. It all can be re-edited. But when it's re-edited, you want to make sure that that re-edit has reasonable deadlines for the re-edit. And then after the re-edit, what happens? Where does it go from? Another time it's a matter of asking the second question. Always, that's my modus operandi. Ask the second question. The first question told you something. The second will tell you how long is it going to take to do this. How much is it going to cost me to do this? Is this all it's going to cost me to do this? When's the last book? What's the last book you actually put out there that I can see? And can I speak to the author of that book and check on the experience that that author had with you on that book? I'd like to speak to 3 authors that you published. I'd like to speak to them about, you can do that before you even give them money or that manuscript. 3 authors I'd like to speak to who published books with you. I want to speak to them about their experiences. Click, that's a scam. I have 3 minutes. I can talk to you about this. So tell me exactly what I can get from this. Because you have 3 minutes. Tell them you have 3 minutes. You have 3 minutes to tell me. If not, I'm going to identify you as a scam and I'm going to hang up. So choose your words wisely because I'm not going to be rude. Huh? I had a book launch at Howard University for the first book. And I thought that went pretty well because a couple of the authors came down to Washington to be a part of the book launch at the bookstore. and I had they gave me the books that were left over. They'd ordered like about 100 books, so they gave me the leftover books, and I sold them. So that worked fairly well. I'm just getting over, like I said, the sting of what happened with the first book and aha moments because I know that it's better because I've updated. We updated where they are now. What's the aha moment you had since the first book? And here's a current picture of you that from before. So it's better than the first volume, and it got 4 people out that I wanted to get out of the book. They were poisoned, and I got them out. Some left voluntarily, others I showed the door. Here's the door. I don't want you in the next edition. You're not a real man. I'm sorry, I made a mistake, and so I got them out. So it's better, and I have confidence in what I write. That's the other thing. I have confidence in what I write. I think it's good. Maybe it's not excellent, but I think it's good. And it's honest. It's honest because it tells how I feel. I didn't try to impress you with myself or big words. I said it in a communicative way with the intention that this may change your life because it changed mine. And if I
When you
don't
write,
believe it, I won't write
I'm
it.
sorry, when
But if
you
I,
write, do you have to be alone? Does your wife have to be out of the house, or
I can't
how
write
does
with
that
her.
work?
I don't write with her around. I've never written anything with her around. But as I said, she's the one that encouraged me to publish the first book. I carried it for 10 years. I carried the manuscript for 10 years about my cat. I carried it. I didn't think anybody would publish it. I knew it was publishable, but I didn't think anybody would publish it. But she said, if you carry this around, publish it. And I put it out there, and it's even better story printed because they put a cover on it than it was. They prettied it up. It's out there. I want to go to a group of cat lovers. If I can go to a group of cat lovers, they'll eat my book alive. It's a spiritual cat book, but it's called not another cat book. Not another. It's different than any cat book I've ever seen. So once I take the time to get a group of cat lovers together, they'll run it for me. I'm divining for water for the water table. I'm looking for the water table. I know it's there. I just got to find it. And I'm patient enough. You don't want this one. Here's another one. This you don't like that. Here, how about this? Wow, I like that one. Okay, take that one. Wow. Okay, what else do you have? Okay, well, take the first one I showed you. Take that as well. It'll happen. It's not a question of if, it's when. And I get better. Each of my books is better because I'm more communicating about what I want to say. I don't get beyond what I want to say. This is what I want to say. I'm not trying to pretty it up. Here it is. Now, and what I do is I read my books like I'm talking to myself. And if it doesn't sound right, then it won't read right. And again, I read a lot of books of masters and people who are well known and famous. I read their stuff and I see what they're doing and how they connect with their readers. And again, because of my energy level is very high, and my desire to communicate is very high, and my desire to leave a legacy is very high. I want to leave something behind in terms of the thoughts. Now, this guy's book really hit, but hey, he was a good writer. He was a good writer, and there are a lot of writers like that. I think Native Son, I believe. Native Son, I think he wrote a second book that he says is better, but they never published it. It's in his library. It's in his library and on papers. So I don't have illusions about being famous, but I don't have illusions about what I've written, and I know it's well written, and I know it's how to communicate it. So at some point, somebody will pick it up who thinks the way I do, and like, oh, I like this book, and away we go. If I see that on this side, fine. If not, I know that it's a legacy. That's all my books. And by the way, two of the first books are in the college library. Marietta College has 2 copies of our first book in the library.
That's
It's,
great.
yeah, it's there. It's there. It's got bits and pieces. It'll take off. It's just a matter of when. I said to stay patient and look for the right opening. You know?
It's really hard to write your story about Dr. Martin Luther King being assassinated and your fraternity sorry, your fraternity brothers bodily protecting you. That's a really touching story. But when you go to write it, it's really difficult to do that uh, in an entertaining way. To tell the story is one thing. To put the words on the paper is, I personally find it a lot more difficult and complicated to do.
My life is so humorous and so intriguing. It's easy for me to write
Okay.
because when I write something, it's usually very funny to me and very intriguing. Here's a quick story. My sophomore year in the tap house, I guess I was about 19. Yeah. It was my birthday. So a group of people that I didn't know that well bought a huge watermelon with my name on it, house, to my room with a knife and fork so I could sit down and eat it before them. They want me to see me cut it up and eat it. And I said, you've been watching too much Birth of the Nation. And I thought, even then I thought it was funny. My life is humorous. So some things that are tragic. Dr. King, I knew, okay, let me say this real quick. I want to just make sure we use a good time. Every time someone dies, Stanley, they're famous. They leave me something. I look for it. Muhammad Ali left me the fact that he was willing to give up 3 years of his life, of his prime, for what he believed. Wow, that's something to stand for. That had to be hard. He left me that. When Dr. King died, same thing. Here's a man who was brilliant and could have been multimillionaire. He was brilliant, great writer, but he was willing to die for what he believed. Most people aren't like that. He left me that. How far are you willing to go, what you really believe, and what you stand on, and what you're willing to go against the grain for. He left me that. I look anybody that dies like that. I look for that. So my life is so intriguing. I got stories that would have you on your back in tears, laughing, because they weren't funny when it happened. But but after looking in hindsight, they were things I'll never do again because at the time it was tragic, but now it's funny. So it's easy to write about. Here's the thing, it might help you. I am able to separate myself from what I write. It's almost like I'm looking at myself. Okay. I'm not schizophrenic, but like I split myself in two and I look at myself objectively in terms of the experience. So I write the experience, which at the time was dramatic and tragic and challenging, but I'm writing from a writer's perspective as if I'm objectively looking at it. A, B, C, D, E, and F, and G happened to you. Those were events that happened. Now, how do you classify them? They were horrible then, but now I see I got through them. They weren't as bad as I thought they were. At the time, I thought they were terrible. And I'm going to tell you, when it happened, it was terrible. But now, as I look back as a writer, objectively, I can list them. This is a list of things that happened. That's nothing to do with how I put a label on it. So that makes it easier. Now, if I keep looking at it, of course, the pain will come back and the tragedy will come back. But by that time, I move to something else. I don't dwell on those things because I could bring up some bad experiences if I write too graphically. Stephen King is like that. I don't know how he's able to write stuff because it's so graphic. It's really graphic. So when I write things that are graphic, I have to write them and then put it down, let it sit for a while, because what happens, it begins to remind me of how graphic and tragic it really was when I experienced it. But if I do that as an objective writer, who just lists these things happen to me that I want to share with you, and then if I can get past that and tell you why I did that, there's a reason why I did that. Here's a reason, and then let it sit, I'm okay. But I can tell when it's getting too hot. It's too hot, too close. It's too. I can't really be objective about it. So I can't write about it now. But if I start with that notion, okay, it happened years ago. Let's talk about it. Okay, let me talk about it because I think I want to share that with you. And what I'm going to do, I'll stop when it gets too hot. And I may be able to come back to it. I may not be able to come back to it. It's too hot. It's too close. It's too hot. It brings up too much negative emotion. I'm trying to be a positive person. I can't talk about it without getting upset. So there are very few things in my life that are like that. When those guys comforted me on that day, I needed that. The day Dr. King was assassinated, I needed somebody needed to protect me because I was upset. And I didn't know what to do with the upsetness. They came and absorbed it. They absorbed it by all they could do. It wasn't a lot, but that's all I respected it was all they could do to comfort me that day. Nothing they said was comforting, but just the fact they made the effort. You understand? The fact they made the effort was comforting.
I understand that. I'm saying the logistics of putting those words on paper is different than perhaps it was a bad example. You telling me the story is one thing, but the logistics of writing it down, having it not awkward, enough detail to make it interesting to a reader to read about it on paper is different than you telling me the story.
The fact that I'm going to write about it will make it interesting to the reader. because
That's not easy to do.
no, but it's not easy, but it's at that level. It usually something I feel like you can't ignore this. You can't ignore it because it's just that dramatic. It's not a random thought. It's not a weak thought. It's dramatic enough that I'm pulling it up because it may have happened years ago. When something that happened today or thought I had today, it's something's prevailing. It's a prevailing thought. And so I feel like I'm compelled to write it, but I got to get it. I want to get it out. And it's interesting enough that if you really care, it'll get you. You can write some of the best stuff in the world, and people will never get it. Some books, like the fact you're taking books out of libraries, they don't get it. The point is to make people think. This is another way of thinking. This is another way of living. These people live this and they put it on paper. But if I can separate, now I'm not saying it's perfect. If I can separate myself enough to write objectively, yeah. But if it's too difficult for me to bring it to my consciousness, I can't get it out. I can't get it out to you because I can't get it out of myself. And I also haven't processed. I have not completely processed what happened. I haven't processed what happened enough to share with you. I can't be objective about it. And I can't make it interesting to you because it's interesting to you, but not to someone else. And that's disappointing. 5 people thought it was interesting, but 100 said no. So I'm not trying to intrigue you or interest or even entertain you. I'm trying to give you some information about what happened and how I failed to deal with it or how I dealt with it. Now take that because it's usually something that'll impact other people. Because it happened to me, it can happen to you. So if you get that, then you'll see what I was trying to do. But I'm not trying to entertain you. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm naturally funny, but I don't try to be funny. It just comes out that way. So if people understand that they do. I warn people I can talk. It's just who I am. I'm not trying to contain that. I think that's who I am. And so when I'm natural with that, those things come up. They bubble up. The thoughts bubble up. The concepts bubble up. The level that I need to share this with someone bubbles up. But I'm not going to sit down and take account of who found this interesting or funny or worth buying. I'm not going to do that because then I start writing with this intention. Who's going to laugh at this? Who's going to think this is interesting? Who's going to buy this? I can't do that because I don't have that capability, and I could fail in that intention. But if I write from my heart, if I write from my experiences, and write from my passion, normally it rises to that level that somebody gets it. So I write from the point. Also, I write from the point of ignorance. I assume my reader knows nothing. So if I say I'm happy and gay, when I was growing up, gay meant joyous. So I make sure you know what I mean by gay. So I make sure anything I say, I define it after I say it to make sure. That's what I learned. I'm a researcher by training. So anything that I say, I want to define it so you know we're on the same page. But I don't assume everything I say is worth saying. But I feel that it is. And I don't want to waste your time by saying something I don't think is at least meaningful to me. Now, whether relates to you or not, I can't guarantee that. But I just asked you to read it from the perspective I thought it was worth sharing. If it isn't worth sharing, I won't say it. It's just that simple. But if it's worth sharing, I'll say it and you take it from there.
Do you ever let people read what you're writing before you're finished?
No, no, normally not. You get a draft maybe, but it has to have complete thoughts in it. Some of my thoughts aren't
Okay.
always complete. Some of my thoughts are incomplete. I got a premise, but I don't have a conclusion. I've got assumption, but I don't have where it goes from there. So you can't see where I'm going. You'll make assumptions about where I'm going. No, that's not direction I'm going. Well, I did know where I was going, but once you told me, I think maybe I'll go that way. I don't be influenced like that. So I'd rather
Okay.
you look at complete thoughts, a chapter or a section. Yeah, every now and then. But most people look at when I complete. I'm working now on completing stuff. Again, I'm working from the perspective of legacy creation. I don't have 20, 30 years to be rumbling around in this stuff. So I want to get it out and get it moving so that I can see some measurable impact. Even if it's just, I really like your book and I bought 5 copies. That's cool. I wrote your book and I threw it in the trash. Okay. Why'd you throw it in the trash? I thought this section was this and this section was that. I said, well, send me something on that by email. I think it's worth taking a look at. Got blind spots. I'll see if I have blind spots. So I'm always looking for relevant and constructive feedback about what I write and what I do, and I take that and I change. I modify, change, I evolve, but I don't deal with destructive feedback. I don't deal with that because I know that that's designed to destroy, and that's not my mission. Is not to destroy; it's to build.
Do you ever meet with other writers and exchange ideas or
Yeah,
technique?
I was in a group here called the Yellow Door, and that's what we did. And I had a chance to read from my book about my cat, and of course I cried. yeah, we exchange ideas, we exchange how we get ideas. You know, someone has a book, there's a breakthrough book. How'd you break through to that level? They share those things with us. Yeah, I belong to a group. I haven't done it recently. I belong to a group called the Yellow Door. Yeah, they're still going, the Yellow Door. And they meet monthly and they have new authors, they have published authors who come through and you look at your stuff and say, if you twisted it this way, people might understand what you're saying because I can't figure out what you're saying. You know, I read that section. I don't know what was your point. It was okay. This is the point. Why did you just say that? So yeah, we have that. It's workshops. There are a series of workshops. So I've been able to do that recently. But yeah, I've been involved in that because I think good writing breeds better writing, and all of us have blind spots, and you don't want to be protective of or defensive about your blind spots. You know that didn't all that didn't say anything. What were you trying to say? Why didn't you just say it? You spent a whole page. Why didn't you just say that? Because I couldn't get that from what you wrote. But if you just said that, or even say this is what I'm going to say, and then ramble along for 2 pages, I'd have been okay because at the beginning I knew what you were trying to say. So that helps to have relevant and reliable people as blind spots in my reading. I do that. Yeah, I have people read. My wife reads it sometimes. She can be somewhat critical, but it's constructive. It's always constructive. But other people I read, they're just destructive. You know, why are you even a writer? No, that's not. Don't say that. Let's talk about this piece and what this piece did or did not communicate to you. What was I saying in that chapter? I got no clue. Did you see that first part? Oh, I didn't read that. Well, then read that. That'll give you a clue. So that's what I do. And I get through a few filters before it gets out. Okay. Fewer filters now because the ones I've met so far, a lot of them are destructive. It's like, I can't do that. How can you do this? You know, how can you be that free to write? How can you enjoy what you write and then throw it away because it didn't say anything? The whole book said nothing. You put it in the trash, you know, because I know that was garbage, and I know the quality of what I write, and that wasn't high quality. I wasn't feeling well. I was in a bad mood or whatever over a period of time, and that writing reflects that. I don't want anybody to think that that would help them do anything, because when I look at it, it's destructive to me. So if it's destructive to me, it's probably destructive to someone else. I'm gonna throw it away. You know, so I try to be reflective. I try to be sensitive to a fault. But when I know you blowing air at my skirt, I'm like, that's it. We're done. We're done. I don't, you know, that we're done. You know, this is not helping me. You know, because you're not helping me to build this better.
Do you have any advice to undergraduates watching this who say, I want to be a writer?
Go for it. Sit down, figure out what it is you want to say that you think you would like someone else to read. A shared thought. You know, start with a shared thought and then write from that shared thought that you something you want to share and make it something as if you were talking to yourself and make it meaningful to yourself. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I'd like someone to tell me that. Then wait for the naysayers because they're going to come and make sure that you've always insulated yourself about those naysayers who are valid and invalid. Brush off the ones that are invalid. Take the ones who are valid after you've vetted them and then take their information and make what you write better. But don't wait for years to write something and get it out because chances are someone have the same thought. That's the book that was a bestseller. You know, get the thoughts out and then, you know, like babies, get them out and keep going and allow yourself to be a better writer by looking at your work and finding a way to improve it in the next realm. But do it. And if you don't think you can write, first of all, you can turn your mouth on. The reason I can write, I can talk. I take my mouth, turn off my mouth, and turn on my hand. And that's how I write. I turn on my hand is talking like my mouth, and I'm writing. And I also skip a line. If I'm doing on my line paper, I skip a line. If I'm doing on a computer, I double space or triple space and write it in. Write something I feel like I want to stop. Dedicate yourself to writing once a day, an hour, half hour. Sit down in front of the computer and try to write something and continue what you're writing. Continue it and write it. If you can't do something, sit there for a half hour, nothing to come out. You sit there for an hour, eventually over the week, something's going to come out because you're not going to sit there. But let your mind go and pull up something out of your subconscious that you wanted to say, and maybe you suppressed it because you thought people were going to criticize it. Let your mind, your subconscious, bring it up and then start writing it. And the more you write it, the more it begins to justify and substantiate itself. It becomes an entity. Your writing becomes an entity, it becomes a thing. It takes on a life of its own And when it takes a life on its own, it'll almost tell you where to go next and what to do next. And then it'll also tell you that's enough. Stop there. And that's it. That's the key.
Okay. Do you have any other advice for undergraduates, whether it's writing or whether it's teaching, anything that we haven't covered that you feel we need to discuss?
I'm just saying, if you're going to be in college, be in college. It's a great experience, but don't be there if you don't want to be there, because you're going to waste the experience. You're also going to waste a slot someone else could have had. Someone got admitted. You got a slot, and you're blocking a spot of someone who really wanted to be in college. So if you don't want to be there, don't be there. Everyone's not set for college any particular moment in time or any particular place. So if you don't want to be there, don't be there. But if you're going to be there, take advantage of the experience. It's not 4 years you should waste. It's 4 years you should take to get the most meaningful things you need. Because everything I learned in college years ago, I graduated from college in 1971, I'm still using it. I'm still using it. And then make friends. Don't go through college alone. Make friends, and some of those friends will be lifelong friends. Some of my best friends, these 11 guys, are guys are going to be my friends for life. You know, we didn't see, we shared things together. We shared horrors together. We shared triumphs together. We have things that make you laugh for hours that we did, that we can bring up. But we love each other, and we say that because those experiences bonded us together. You know, that's what we're missing now. People are too impersonal. Put the cell phone down. Have a conversation with someone that you can see them laughing, see them crying. You know, get into the world. The world is not electronic. It's moving in that direction. Know that AI has some impact on what's going on. It doesn't have to destroy us. It doesn't have to overcome us, because we're humans. We're not robots. And as humans, we have to enjoy the experience of being human, knowing that you're limited to a time period. We all got timers. So don't waste your timer, and make sure that you find something that will leave a legacy that'll influence other people. Don't be so selfish. Find a way to help someone else. Find a way to help someone else's path get a little bit easier from something you experience that they don't have to trip over because you shared with them. That's what life is about. That's what college is about. But it has to be a fit. That's the last thing. It has to be a good fit. College is a fit. It could be small, it could be large, it could be metropolitan. Find the fit if you're going to go to college. And once you find that fit, you find your place in that college, and you find that college is like work. It's a internship. College is like an internship. You know, just as the work first job is an internship for life. A lot of things you succeed in college, you succeed in life. But believe in yourself, trust in yourself, and find respectable and valued people to take with you on the journey. That's what I'd say.
Well, all right. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. I really appreciate you accepting our invitation to talk. I've gotten a lot out of this conversation, and yes, you are a very funny and entertaining man. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Likewise, it was worth the time, and it was worth. I thank you for fishing me out. And if you can keep in contact, this was great. I appreciate you fishing me out like this. Has really been a good use of my time. I have to thank my cinematographer, my wife, and take care.
All right. Thank you very much. It's
No,
been a
thank
pleasure.
you. Yeah, likewise.
Live long and prosper.
I don't know if I get that. I did the Boy Scout thing.
Boy Scouts, yes.
Live long. Let's talk
Take
again.
care,
Okay.
Quentin. Good
Okay. You
night.
too. Good night. Goodbye.